All right. Well, welcome everybody on this lovely motorcycle week presentation in our outdoor first aid and safety series. My name's David, and I'm going to be talking to you about the leaves of wrath or harmful local plants and fungi. Right? We have the normal disclaimers of this information is educational, informational, and not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Talk to an actual medical provider that you have a relationship with if you want to do that. You should consult with your medical provider before beginning any exercise, fitness, diet, or nutrition routine. And if I mention any specific products, it's purely coincidental and does not represent a personal financial relationship. For those of you who don't know me, I'm David. I'm a PA in the area. I've been one for 18 years, and I really like wilderness medicine. All right. So we're going to be going over a few different types of plants today. I should also put in the disclaimer, I am not a botanist. I'm not a mycologist. I'm just a hobbyist, and I like talking about outdoor stuff. So first, we're going to talk about some plants that irritate, some plants that bite you back, the plants that'll make you sick, and then we'll go over mushrooms, their own special grouping. So first, plants that irritate. The first one that always comes to people's minds is poison ivy. It's the one that gets blamed for all the rashes, even though there's other ones that we're going to talk about. But this is the one most people uh, kind of revert back to. Despite its name as ivy, it can grow as a shrub as well. It can grow to about 4 feet tall. Uh, Most people know about the leaves of three let it be. That talks about this cluster of three leaves on a stem. But we're going to find that there are other plants that do that. And just to be tricky, they're not always the same shape. They don't always have little ridges. You see that they're asymmetrical. You got some spiky edge on this side and smooth on this side. That can definitely help you identify it, but unfortunately, it's not always the case. They also get these little yellowish flowers that turn into white berries. Um, their stem is typically a bit reddish, and alternating leaf clusters, it's hard to see on this particular picture, but in the next picture, it'll make a little bit more sense. As we can see going up the stem, there's a stem here on the right, then a stem on the left, stem on the right. That's the alternating. So of course, this is more the vining type of the poison ivy. So the thing that irritates us, the human skin, is urushiol. Um, like most of the things that these plants will produce, it's actually an insect and predator deterrent, but actually also is a antimicrobial agent for them when it gets broken. When the leaves get broken, the sap seeps out and seals the broken edges. Because it is an oil, it is easily absorbed into the skin. We don't have very long to get it off, um, but it can take as little as 10 minutes. Fun fact about the oil is it dries very quickly. And when it dries on stuff, such as your clothing, your boots, your tools, it stays on there and its allergic potential is retained indefinitely. You can catch it from here to eternity, as far as we know. Also, a nice fun fact 15 to 20% of people do not react to urushiol. I am one of them. I have definitely handled it and I don't have it. I don't get a reaction. My dad is the same way. But there are some people who can just look at poison ivy and get a rash. Now, some poison ivy lookalikes. We talked about leaves of three, but all of these have leaves of three. This is a blackberry bush. As you can see, there you got these little spines or thorns on it. That's pretty typical for your blackberries, your raspberries out there. This is called ash leaf maple. As you can see, it has might have serrated edges, might look a little asymmetric there, but as you see, the right here, these stems are symmetric. They're not alternating. And then this is called Boston ivy. This is the stuff that you see growing at like Harvard and Yale. This is an import from Europe. Again, leaves a three reddish stem. It does have alternating stems, so it's actually pretty hard to distinguish. Mostly it's domesticated, but it has been found in the local areas as well. So pretty much just leave the leaves of three alone. There's really no reason to touch these things. So we also have poison sumac up here. This I actually took a picture of this yesterday on the boardwalk in downtown Meredith. So this is a shrub or a tree. Actually can go up to 30 feet tall. This one was about 7 or 8 feet tall off the boardwalk, not able to be touched. Um, as you can see, they grow in little leaf clusters on a red stem. So they're kind of elongated, pointed. They have greenish flowers that produce whitish gray berries. You can kind of see the flowers right here. It's a little early in the year for the berries, but it's hard to see in here, but you can see the flowers are flowering right now. So another thing that's going to cause it also contains urushiol that can cause the itching. So now we're going to get into this is an invasive species called giant hogweed. Um, this sucker, as you can see, can grow 10 to 15 feet tall. We're assuming this guy's around 6 feet tall. Um, the leaves, as you can see, are quite large, what we call multi-lobed. So different, multiple different points off the leaf here. And so this collection of flowers is called an umbel, like an umbrella. And there can be 50 to 100 different flowers on here, anywhere from 50 to 150. And the sap contains a chemical called furanocoumarins. There's going to be a lot of chemicals that I have a hard time saying here. Furanocoumarins, which is a natural pesticide. And the fun thing about this is the sap itself is not irritative until it gets on you and it gets exposed to light. UV radiation actually changes the chemical structure and makes it more allergenic. Um, Irritation can set in as little as 15 to 20 minutes. And the the furanocoumarins are also in some well-known vegetables and fruits, things like celery, parsnips, carrots, and citrus fruits. There's a thing called bartender dermatitis. Bartenders who are cutting up limes all day, especially if they're outside, will get this rash on their arms and hands, very similar to the hogweed. So we talked about that. As you can see, this giant thing. This is a probably a 15-foot tall bird feeder. We have another one that's an invasive species called the cow parsnip. Pretty much the middle brother of the giant hogweed. Similar, but only grows to about 8 feet tall. Has only about 10 to 50 flowers per cluster. But again, looks the exact same. These guys grow in fields. Usually they're pretty quick growing too, so they outperform all the other plants. As you can see, this was kind of cleared and it's just shooting right up. Now, we have lookalikes, just like most of the plants we're going to talk about today. This one is called Queen's Anne lace. It's actually put in some flower arrangements. Some people put it in their garden. This is the little brother of the hogweeds. There are some people who do react to this, not as much as the giant and the giant hogweed and cow parsnip. And then this is wild parsnip, which again can also cause a blistering rash. But as you can see, they have yellow flowers, pretty easy to distinguish. Their leaves are a lot smaller. But again, kind of pretty much if you're seeing any of these umbels, just stay away from them. They have the potential to cause some discomfort. Now, speaking of discomfort, they are all going to cause some sort of blistery, itchy rash. We call this a contact dermatitis. You know, these linear striations here are pretty much where it starts. Usually the sap is inside the plant. It only gets on somebody when it's broken. So a lot of times people get this from spring cleanup, gardening, weed whacking, like this, uh, highway workers who are clearing the medians of highways will come in with this kind of stuff. As you can see, some can be quite disfiguring and uncomfortable with these blisters. Not necessarily harmful. These can get infected if not treated correctly. But as you can see, there's all sorts of there's a whole range of how people will react. So treatment, there's this saying I learned up here is poison ivy specifically takes a week to get it, a week to have it, and a week for it to go away. So you don't actually have to take anything to get rid of poison ivy. It will work itself out, but it's very, very uncomfortable. So, for smaller areas, calamine lotion, this has been used for forever. This is in every like mom's medicine cabinet, steroid creams, over the counter allergy medicine. But sometimes if it's really bad or if you don't know or if it's really widespread, going to an urgent care or your doctor is the best because we can put people on steroids, strong antihistamines to help with the symptoms. It's not going to necessarily make you get better quicker, but it can help you feel better while you're recovering. Hmm. So prevention, um, as I said, washing the oils and the saps off is important as soon as you realize that you've come in contact with it. There's one study that showed after 10 minutes on the skin, with good warm soapy water, you can get about 50% of the urushiol off. After after 30 minutes is about 10%, and after an hour, you're pretty much done. There are some soaps out there called like Technu that claim that it reduces the amount of irritation. Um, I've had people with varying success with that. And we also talked about the oils drying. People tend to forget gardening gloves, shears, the clothing that they wear. So when you're done gardening, if you think that you've come in contact with any of these plants, you got to wash everything, not just you, because you can get reinfected or not infected, but re-exposed to the oils. And this stuff can even happen in the wintertime. I've had people get poison ivy in the wintertime because the oil's dry. Yep. All right. And if you have any questions, just let me know as I'm talking. Plants that bite, thankfully, these aren't the like the carnivorous plants. We're not talking about Venus flytraps or anything, which are down south, but we do have pitcher plants in New England. First is stinging nettle. Have you ever been stung by stinging nettle before?
Yes.
Yeah, quite painful.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to identify. It can grow pretty tall. It's got these thin, sharp-looking leaves, little white flowers, and the underside have these like hypodermic needle type things called spicules. Um, Gosh, they hurt so bad. Funny thing, you can eat these though. You can, especially the younger leaves. So if you like the older leaves tend to contain like a certain like calcium uh, compound that can be like quite bitter, but young leaves, you can actually cut them, boil them, which uh, neutralizes the needles. And actually, they're pretty good. I've had some stinging nettle pasta before, and it's it's a leafy green,
Yeah.
but you got to obviously be very careful.
Does it have any actual nutritional value?
I don't just answer that. Like, it's one of those like probably foraging. It probably has like vitamin C or something in it.
Right.
But not that I know of. But I mean, it's a leafy green, so like spinach and kale and stuff like that. So I assume so, but I don't know for sure. We also have a different one called wood nettle or Canadian nettle. A little bit broader leaves, but again, still has the serrated edges. Um, the stem, stalk, and leaves are all covered, not as profusely as the stinging nettle, but they still can't hurt. These guys are usually little shrubs, and this is typical what you see. It's the best picture I could find, unfortunately, but you get these little tiny whelps, little tiny hives that build up just from where it gets stung, where it sticks you. It has like histamine, acetylcholine, a bunch of different chemicals that can cause your body to react. Thankfully, it only lasts about 10 to 15 minutes. It's very uncomfortable while you're having it, though. You can try antihistamines or hydrocortisone cream, but honestly, the pain's going to subside before any of those have any time to kick in. But yeah, very, very painful. That's really the only two that are around here that bite you back. So then we're going to get on to the plants that make you sick. Now, these plants won't get you sick just by touching them. You do have to ingest them, but still something to watch out for, especially with pets. These are definitely ones that can affect pets as well. So we have poison hemlock. Poison hemlock. Um, brought over from Europe. There was a time where we tried to make America look more like Europe, so we did that with the plants. This is very invasive, pops up everywhere, grows like a weed because that's what it is. As you can see, they're almost fern-like leaves. They also have flowers white in an umbel shape. So again, we're kind of avoiding these flowers at all costs. And it has a compound called conine, which can cause muscle breakdown and eventually lead to kidney failure and muscle paralysis. This can also cause a skin rash as well. But do you remember who famously was killed by hemlock? Socrates. Socrates was poisoned by hemlock.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely one you don't want to make into a tea.
Mm.
But again, like this kind of looks like carrot, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of looks like a carrot top. Kind of in like similar families, but again, you really shouldn't be eating anything that looks like this around here. You're going to be in a heap of trouble. Water hemlock. This is another hemlock that grows around here. Usually it's in swampy or watery areas. This is a native species and has been called one of the most toxic plants in North America. Again, they're thin, serrated, lanch-like leaves, and cicutoxin. Main thing it causes is seizures. People can die from prolonged seizures from this if it's ingested. I'm not quite sure what people might think it is. It kind of looks like marijuana a little bit. It doesn't have the 5 lobes. It only has the 3 lobes, but you never know. So again, not anything that you want to be ingesting. And it too has an umbel of white flowers. So again, we are staying away from the umbel flowers unless you get them from a florist. Canadian yew, this is one I see a lot on hikes. Most people notice, so it's an evergreen. It has these little spikes like a hemlock tree, which by the way, hemlock trees and these hemlocks are not related. The only reason the reason I saw that they're called the same is apparently the leaves smell the same when their leaves are crushed.
Mm.
But so kind of looks like the conifer hemlock. Right around now, it starts getting these white, weird little globular flowers. But most people recognize it for this. This is an aril. It's a berry-like structure. You can kind of see these black seeds in here. And every part of this is toxic, except for apparently the red part. It's not a true berry. And apparently it's very bitter, but it just doesn't, but most people aren't going to eat it. The taxine is what's in this. It can actually suppress your heart function, so it causes it to slow down, make you dizzy, short of breath. Can cause your circulation to collapse. This is the first one of the ones we talked about so far that potentially looks appetizing. So maybe children might look at it and think maybe it's like a strawberry or something. We'll get to one that looks very similar to a different berry in a couple plants. But again, don't eat anything unless you know what it is. Pokeweed, this is a very pretty plant. As you can see, black berries in a very strange arrangement, big broad leaves, red stems. It's a very pretty plant. But it is toxic. Saponin, so saponin sounds like soap. It kind of has like when you crush it and put it in water, it actually kind of has a soapy quality to it. Causes you to have a lot of diarrhea and vomiting. Powerful antiemetic. Usually you just feel terrible. It's not going to kill you unless you get some electrolyte abnormalities. But oh boy, I've heard some. I've never met anybody who's eaten it, but I read some stories about this. But again, they look kind of delicious, don't they? You know, you take away all this, looks kind of like a blueberry, but don't eat them. And then finally, the blue bead lily. I see this a lot on hikes. Right around now, we have these nice little cluster of yellowish green flowers on a long stalk. They have these succulent type leaves, you know, low to the ground. You know, the stalks only come about this high, but then they get these cool little blue berries on the end, waxy blue. Also have the same saponin like the pokeweed does. Again, probably not going to kill you. From what I've heard, very bitter, but it's going to make you puke your guts out. This is the one that most people might get confused with. the blueberry. All right, so this is a low bush. Actually, this might be a high bush blueberry. As you can see, blue, but they have the ends are splayed out rather than these guys are sucked in. So you can see these guys have nice, they're usually taller, or the low bush blueberries are smaller, just everything's miniaturized. Um, so some people, especially kids, might identify this as a blueberry, where it is most certainly not a blueberry. That is a blueberry. And the blueberry should be ripening in about a month. So if you or your loved ones or a pet have any exposure, don't try to make yourself vomit. Don't drink milk. Don't eat charcoal. These are all things that we've been told to do in the past. Call poison control. It is toll free. This is 1-800-222-1222. That is a nationwide poison control center. You'll just be directed to the closest one. Ours is out of Portland, I believe. Staffed by toxicologists. They're very nice. I've talked to them when I worked in the ER. They're happy to talk with you. They may have you go to the hospital, but there is a pet poison hotline. A little bit more numbers to memorize, but they have animal toxicologists. This does cost not $89. The poison control for humans is free. Yeah. But yeah, if you go to the hospital, we're calling poison. We call poison control. I've done it from the urgent care too. For practically everything, they're just really smart. They're pharmacists typically.
So what was the rationale behind milk?
The milk was supposed to either neutralize or absorb toxins, something like that. Like drinking milk. This actually came more out of like bleach or like drinking caustic substances, but some people do it for any poisoning. So yeah, don't drink milk with that. You should drink milk for other reasons, but don't drink milk for that. All right. Mushrooms. All right. Mushrooms are fun. I like mushrooms. So what are they? They are the fruit and spore bearing portions of fungi. Typically, they're living inside rotting organisms, usually trees. Um, and they come in a variety of different sizes, colors, um, whether they have gills, whether they have pores, what their spore print looks like, what they grow on a mushrooms. They're everywhere. They're wonderful. There would be so much stuff on the forest floor if they didn't exist. This is a very common edible mushroom called chicken of the woods. Pretty easy to identify. There's really nothing else around here that looks like this. These are delicious. I found them occasionally over the years, and you fry them up, and they are great. As I said, mushroom hunting can be fun. I do it a little bit. Um, the thing about mushrooms is you have to be 100% sure that the mushroom that you have picked is the one that you're picking. Meaning you have to positively identify it, multiple sources, checking with other people before you put it in your mouth. So some are very easy to identify, like chicken of the woods, pretty easy to identify. It's bright orange. There's really nothing else that looks like it. This is called a bear's head mushroom. I actually found this is a picture of one that I found in Meredith a couple of years ago. Really nothing that looks like it around here. There are different groups. There's a New Hampshire mushroom company in Tamworth. I did a mushroom hunting class with them like 3 or 4, actually longer than that. They're great. Like they grow their own mushrooms, but they actually had a PhD from like UNH who like does mushroom teaching. There's New Hampshire mushroom hunters on Facebook. People will post their pictures and stuff, and there's a lot of like amateur and really good mycologists out there. But again, if you're going to be hunting for mushrooms, you better know what you're doing. I do have a couple of books that I use, Complete Mushroom Hunters or Mushroom Fear. There's only about 4 mushrooms that I will actually pick because I know exactly what they look like, where they are. There's multiple ones you can eat in the state, but there's only 4 that I am comfortable identifying and picking. This is one of them. That's another. We'll go over a couple others. So I want to look at those. All right, so now we're going to play a little game. Which one do we think is the edible mushroom, and which one do we think is the inedible mushroom or the toxic mushroom?
I'm gonna say edible is left.
All right. So this is a morel mushroom. These are edible. These are
I knew it
false.
from the name.
Yeah, these are false morels.
Mm.
These are toxic. They call false morels contain gyrometrin, causes headaches, nausea, vomiting, ataxia, me troubles walking. Last 2 to 6 days, won't necessarily kill you, but you feel like you want to be dead. So again, pretty similar looking.
Yeah.
Morels, there's a way you can tell by cutting into them. These stalks are hollow. These are not. These are more pointed. Obviously, again, morels are one of those that really, when you know, like, this is what they're supposed to look like, this looks abnormal. So a lot of people, this is actually one that's pretty easy to identify. But for those who don't know what they're doing, could pick those and feel awful for a week. All right. Which one's the toxic one? Which one's the non-toxic one?
I'm gonna assume the non-toxic one is the one the person's holding.
Okay. So this is a chanterelle mushroom. These are delicious.
Yep.
This is a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. They contain something called gluten. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pains. So again, mushrooms for the most part aren't going to hurt you if you touch them. They're going to hurt you if you eat them. And even when you pick wild mushrooms, you have to cook them all, because even raw mushrooms will sometimes be will still cause people some gastrointestinal distress. And even some will cause it even when you you eat a chanterelle. There are some people who are sensitive to it. That's why they actually recommend, mycologists and mushroom hunters say, if you're serving wild mushrooms, don't mix them. Don't have like a chicken in the woods and a lion's mane and this, because if somebody gets ill, you don't know which one caused them to be ill, so they can't avoid it next time. But yeah, jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. Now these are bigger. Chanterelles are about that big. They don't get very, very big. There's a black trumpet, which looks very similar to this, which is also edible. All right. Which one's the non-toxic one? Which one's the toxic one?
Non-toxic left.
Correct.
There we go.
This is a button mushroom.
Yeah.
These things you can buy in the store. They do grow in the wild, but mainly this is a domesticated mushroom. This is called the destroying angel.
Yeah.
It actually pops out to this. It has a little skirt here. This belongs to a group of mushrooms called Amanita mushrooms. These are the bad mushrooms. These mushrooms will kill you. So again, you got to know exactly what you're looking at. They contain amatoxin. It actually disrupts the way that your cells talk to each other by affecting RNA. It causes you to go into liver and kidney failure, as well as seizures, vomiting, cramps. And if you don't die, some people get need liver transplants from this sucker. Yep. So destroying angel. All right. Which one is the toxic? Which one was the non-toxic?
Wait, non-toxic is right.
Yeah. So this one's a little dead giveaway. This is a cultivated. This is a shiitake mushroom. They do grow wild, but for the most part, I actually have a couple logs that I inoculated. This is not my log, but as so usually you can tell they have the little white. They're gilled. They have these little white spots, but as they flare out, they actually do start looking like this. This is called the funeral bell. It is also an amanita mushroom. Again, it causes the same liver failure, kidney failure stuff. But again, for someone who's not looking, looks pretty similar.
Yeah.
All right. Which one's which?
Left is non-toxic.
Yes. So this is an oyster mushroom. These are delicious. I have some growing out of, I've found some growing out of birch before. Non-toxic. Again, very, very good to eat. This is called angel's wings. This one's not necessarily toxic to everybody, but in certain people with pre-existing conditions can cause brain swelling. So people with kidney issues, liver issues. So again, for the most part, may not be, but if you identify this as a angel's wings, you're not going to want to eat it. The main way to distinguish between these two is angel wings grows on evergreen trees like pine trees. These guys grow on like oak and birch. So if you find this one of these on a pine tree, it's probably the angel wings. And then finally, both of these are toxic. I'm going to tell both of you.
That's an Amanita, right?
What's that?
Amanita?
These are both amanitas.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is the fly agaric, and this is called yellow patches. Beautiful looking mushrooms, right? These are like when you think of like a cartoony mushroom, like this is what Mario is eating.
Yeah.
You know, he's getting high,
Yeah.
or gonna die. One of the two. Yeah, they're beautiful. You should not eat them. They also have amanita. They, you know, as you said, they have like these. It's almost like a little skirt. If you see that, definitely don't. You can probably touch them. I wouldn't. I would just take pictures of them. So if you or someone you know or your pet gets into them, again, we're calling poison control. They're probably going to tell you to go to the emergency department. But the best thing to do, and I failed to mention it, on the plants that make you sick, if you have a sample of the mushroom, pictures of the mushroom, pictures of the plant, it's very helpful in identifying. There's actually a cool thing on Facebook. It's like a crowdsourced like poison control. Like people will like put up pictures and they'll identify them. It's very helpful. I don't know if poison control can get pictures, but again, it can be very helpful in this day and age of AI. There might be a toxin identifying for a plant identifying app. There's already one on like Apple Photos, and you can identify plants. So, but yeah, that's mushrooms. Again, very fun. I would recommend you take a class if you have access to it. It's actually a lot of fun. Stumbling upon a mushroom, wondering what it is, realizing you can eat it, and then picking it and eating it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, don't do it very often, but it's very fun when you do. Yep. And then that's the end. Any questions?
So one question.
Yes.
Is there any correlation between the toxicity or poisonous if if it grows on a tree or if it grows on the ground? Or is it
Not
just
necessarily. No. Nope.
so I was wondering between the guessing game.
Yeah. So the thing is, most of the mushrooms that are growing out of the ground are actually growing off of trees that are just buried. You just don't see them.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some that will grow on like newly dead trees versus like severely rotted trees. Like,
Mhm.
but it's not really a correlation of like, oh, you're more likely to have, you know, if the tree's standing, you're less likely to have uh issues than the ones on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. It was very fun. Alrighty. Interclapping, hearing, all that stuff.
Sure you want